So our next presentation is from Rasheeda Nalumoso. Rasheeda Nalumoso is a creative producer with 15 years of experience working in the creative and cultural sectors. Currently, she is the head of arts and regional creative lead, SSA Arts, British Council. Let's give her a warm welcome while she comes to speak to us about her masterclass. A round of applause, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to be presenting a case study from a British Council fashion residency that I hope is of interest and chosen specifically to be topical for today's KTA conference. So, TechStitched XR, immersive and AI technologies for sustainable, culturally grounded African fashion in the metaverse. So, my case study today explores TechStitched, an XR fashion project that merges virtual, extended reality, AI to create sustainable, culturally grounded African fashion experiences in the metaverse. In collaboration with Pan African designers, the project used platforms like Unreal Engine and Clo 3D to co create digital garments and an immersive virtual runway. These showcases were set in digital environments inspired by African heritage cities with garments modeled on AI generated avatars. Findings showed that the XR approach significantly reduced physical waste, boosted cultural confidence, and increased global access to underrepresented fashion narratives. While challenges like cost and infrastructure remain, our study concludes that TechStitched XR provides a replicable framework for sustainable, culturally grounded opportunities for design that balance technology with human centered values. The global fashion industry has undergone a critical transformation in the context of climate change, decolonial discourse, digital disruption. Questions on sustainability and cultural representation have become central to future orientated design. Within this landscape, immersive technologies, namely XR and generative AI, offer the potential to reshape the creation, experience, and the dissemination of fashion. TechStitched XR emanated as an experimental response to the potential of leveraging digital tools to elevate designers from Africa, lean into their cultural heritage while addressing environmental and sustainable challenges. Project aligns with Fifth Industrial Revolution, emphasizing human-centered innovation that balance technological advancement with social responsibility. The integration of extended reality and AI into fashion is an emerging field that aligns with the wider discourses on design futures, digital heritage, and sustainable development. Scholars have noted that immersive technologies reshape how we engage with material culture, enabling novel forms of cultural production, preservation, and consumption. In the fashion sector, XR and AI driven tools are being adopted not only for virtual try ons or remote showcasing, but also for rethinking production, pedagogy, and cultural storytelling. So, a collaboration between partners who joined together, designers themselves from 5 African countries: Kenya, Ethiopia, Ghana, it was Nigeria, and Senegal, gathered in Ethiopia for a residency hosted by Horn of Africa, who run the Ethiopia Fashion Week, Guzo Technologies, our tech partner, and British Council. So, really, that research consortium was key to the success of this project. We were really interested from the start to create new tangible evidence that could support what is it to bring creatives together with a technology company. And the resulting TechStitched XR was the result. We didn't know what the input would be, which is always the exciting thing of going into an experimental research residency. And we were open to the possibility of creative exchange through the format of residency that offers the opportunity to experiment and take risks. We fundamentally believe at the British Council that artists in technology is key to the future. We want to advance technological innovation and knowledge generation and engage diverse audiences in that complex technology mix. And the opportunity to prototype, therefore, human-centered futures is what TechStitched offered. One of the distinguishing features of the residency and TechStitched is the intersection of how it was built on major pillars of both XR, AI, fashion, and tourism. Guzo Technology, based in Ethiopia, a really interesting tech company who had not collaborated necessarily with a creative residency in this way before engaging with us. They have done a number of tourism interventions in Ethiopia to great success. And so I think the combination of being quite open to cross-sectoral thinking was also really successful for the project. Visitors of the Hilton Addis Ababa exhibition interacted with garments on the digital runway. They tested real-time fashion simulations, and we were able to really push the cultural narrative embedded in the designer's work, particularly from a Pan-African perspective, knowing that the residency gathered designers from across the continent while being hosted within Ethiopia, which we know has such a rich traditional heritage and stories to share. And so we really pushed the boundaries of fashion presentations, including that focus on cultural immersion as a core component. TechStitched was more than just a design project. It was a cultural storytelling experience, and it pushed the expectations, particularly also of tourism, that we're really interested, as we particularly are aware that the creative economy doesn't exist in a vacuum. And the more that we interact with partners, funders, artists themselves to understand the potentials of new technology, I think that's really key to growing sustainable futures. These are just some examples of mood boards that were developed, illustrating the thematic clusters, particularly leaning in traditional textiles to metaverse catwalks. And so what it really enabled by bringing together a tech company with the designers was real-time experimentation, where designers were able to understand, what does my outfit look like in the virtual world, even before necessarily it becomes a product that I spend time and money developing. And how can that be a conversation that can innovate and push forward the potentials for brands to scale, export, understand their own market within their country, but also the continent and abroad further. These are just some examples of the really beautiful outfits that were created within the VR. And I'm so sorry today I don't have the headsets for you all to experience. It really is a unique and the video that I showed was what it is like when you're in this VR experience that we created, which can only obviously be experienced with the VR headsets that we don't have with us today. Offer that. I think we'll therefore be able to create new futures for designers, because we really didn't know for sure even how the fashion weeks or designers themselves would embrace collaborating in this way. So TechStitch project revealed 5 key thematic findings that illuminate how immersive and AI technologies can support sustainable fashion practices in the global south. Digital heritage amplifies cultural confidence. Designers reported a renewed sense of pride and ownership when seeing their garments contextualized within digitally reconstructed environments. And I think this is really key. And we see it in our work with our CDNA fashion program in Uganda. we really need to take that ownership and pride of our own cultural heritage here, build our brands here before we can understand that that has the opportunity to scale, let alone in Uganda, East Africa, the continent, and beyond. So the opportunity to take our cultural heritage into the metaverse is really, really exciting. And we're at that new frontier where designers are doing that for the first time and have something of value to offer to that engagement. And we really are building that data from scratch. Generative AI can enhance cultural interpretation. As we are writing around partnership with Guzo Technology, really the opportunities are sky high. And it was fantastic to exhibit TechStitched most recently at Africa Fashion Week London. And this quote here from Formative for his creative practice really strikes me because this is someone who had not engaged with the fashion sector or really creatives, was coming much more from tech. And so my advocacy for anyone here in the room who is also working more in the tech sector, let's lean into the creative sector around the confidence it gave him to position his work, not only spearheading experimental technology from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is innovating, and then that has something to offer global stages. And it makes a meaningful contribution that is much needed in the global fashion and cultural industries. Stories from our continent are deeply desired to contribute to the global fashion scene right now. And it's really important to how we think deeply and consciously about African heritage and storytelling to be translated into immersive digital formats without losing our authenticity. So I think that really is my main provocation, and in, very happy to have wider discussions around the opportunities of collaboration and partnership. Thank you.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, again for Rasheeda Nalumoso. I think this is great stuff that the British Council is doing with creatives. I think it also gives the fashion gurus in this room, I see lots of them, including Yiga. It gives you hope that, you know, this is something that you can actually earn from. But away from that, there's room for you to scale to other markets without necessarily first, you know, going to Paris Fashion Week. You know, you can now use VR to bring people into your own experience and show them exactly what it is that you're creating.